Hey,
How are you?
so sorry about that.
No worries. Where were you? Wait,
I
I've
was at
got
I,
this
I
in my
I was at
face.
work up in Camden.
And there was traffic.
Yeah,
Or,
just an absolute ton of traffic,
but
and
I thought London's
got home.
still in lockdown. I have no idea. Like I completely lost track.
It is still in lockdown, but I'm still kind of commuting into work every day because our office is fully in. So yeah, still got the daily commuting.
Cool. Well, it's not bad to be honest. Like it's a nice change of scenery.
Yeah, it's
Better
nice to get out of the house.
better than working from home.
Yeah,
So welcome. I've already started my beer.
no,
Welcome to Club Amboise, and thank you so much to join here tonight. I'm so happy that you're here.
no,
And
thank you for having me.
cool. So I just want to, let's keep it casual, and I'm just gonna briefly introduce you. Like Charles, I've known you for about 5 years now, and so you went to Goldsmith, and you started off as a musician more in, I think, the jazz area. I know you play a lot of instruments, and but you, over the past few years, you've done a lot of events, and you've produced and you've done radio shows as well. And so yeah, so I guess like I'm my main sort of like I would like to know a little bit more on like what is your passion for music, where is it coming from? And oh, hi Henrique.
Yeah, hey Eric. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was always like quite musical as a kid. Like I got into playing instruments from quite a young age, and I just never really got into anything else, to be honest. Like I really loved music, and I just genuinely never found anything else I really enjoyed. So I just kind of threw myself more and more into music until it came to the point of like university, and it was like, well, of course I'm doing music, and it was just a kind of case of being like, what kind of bit of music? And yeah, I used to be a jazz musician. I mean, I still am at heart, I think. And jazz was definitely like my first love for music. Like I remember as a young teenager, my piano teacher kind of first introducing me into jazz piano, and I just kind of fell in love with it immediately. And that was really like my first, like, oh my God, this like blew my mind. But then similarly at the same time, I kind of was like first experiencing electronic music. A friend of mine gave me like a drum and bass CD, which really opened my eyes. And then I got like a really bad DJ controller and started getting into that. And and so by the time I came to uni, I'd been kind of quite into all of these things for a bit of time. And I came to uni, and everyone at uni was like so amazingly experienced in different ways. Like everyone had their own like unique kind of, I don't know, experiences with music leading up to that point. Like no, everyone had very different music tastes. Everyone had very different ways of approaching music in terms of like producing it or creating it or even experiencing it. And it kind of like took me a couple of years to be like take all of it in and be like, oh shit, I tried a lot of things and went in a lot of directions, and then after a couple of years in uni, started developing some ideas that kind of seemed to stick. One of them being resolution and running events, DJing for myself as well. That kind of started picking up more towards the end of uni, and a couple of other like little bits and side projects here and there that kind of gained a little traction. And then after uni, it was just a case of like building all of those up, because yeah, there's quite a few different compartments or elements, I'd say. But I think that's kind of where my passion really comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also what I loved about studying at Goldsmith. Is like you get to meet so many people from different backgrounds, and
Yeah.
start to realize actually it's not just limited to one single genre. Like you can collaborate with people, and you can find
Yeah.
so many different things to do. But yeah, and also like, what is your experience living in London, like being surrounded by all the amazing music venues and all the
I
opportunities?
mean, yeah, I grew up in this like tiny village outside of Bristol, which was like middle of nowhere, countryside vibes. Like felt very cut off. Like I really liked spending time in Bristol, but I felt very cut off where I was. So to go from that into Southeast London, specifically in London. I knew I loved London already, but I'd not been to Southeast. And then,
It's a great part of London.
it's the best part of London. There's literally nowhere else I think I'd rather be. Like, it's just such an amazing, there's such incredible people here on all spectrums, not just music and artistically, like on all levels, but in terms of like the music and artistic quality of Southeast, it's just insane. It's like everyone you meet has these incredible projects and these incredible ideas and these incredible cultural experiences as well. Like, it is such a multicultural area, which means that you are exposed to a lot of different ways of thinking, a lot of different cultural backgrounds and practices, which is just, I think, so good as any kind of creative looking to like expand and learn and start, is to just experience stuff outside of your own cultural heritage is such an immediate like game changer for how you approach stuff. So moving to Southeast was like so key, and I adore it here. I really can't picture myself going anywhere else anytime soon. Maybe New York. I have this kind of maybe New York at some point. Just places where rent is expensive. Apparently, I like. Don't know. But Southeast, yeah, it's incredible. You can't beat it. The scene here is just undeniably the best.
Do you have some of your like favorite venues, like places that you always go to?
Yeah, I mean, like, gosh, quite a lot, isn't there? I mean, Bussy Building is like, you know, I don't think it's like a game-changing club at all. Like, it's not one of those clubs that I'm like, it's one of these experiences that you have to go and live. But it's one of these experiences that really shaped me. Like, going specifically to the Soul Train nights there was really my introduction into a lot of the digging underground soul and disco scene. It was just really key and really important. And then outside of Southeast, you know, you got clubs like Phonox, which every time I've gone to Phonox, I've just had such an incredible experience. Like, you really tell they care a lot about how they put the club together. XOYO, which although you could have your faults with, at the end of the day, they do have an incredible lineup often on, and it's like so incredible to see some of these talents. Printworks as well. Again, another interesting, polarizing venue where, you know, some people love it, some people hate it, but you can't deny the importance of it and how amazing it is to just have that. That's literally 2 tube stops away, just to go to a massive, 4,000 capacity venue that's specifically built for underground DJing. Like, that's just something only London would have. And Pickle Factory as well. That's one of my favorite ones. Really small, intimate venue. There's so many scattered across. And it's also important to, you know, recognize the smaller, the pub venues and stuff like that, because unfortunately, you know, a lot are being closed down these days, which are very sad. Unfortunately, oh God, there's been quite a few actually. Now, come to think of it, the one down in New Cross, the White Hart, I used to work at, and I used to also DJ in the back room, recently shut because of flats.
Are they closed permanently?
Yeah, it's closed permanently now, which is such a shame. And there's so many pubs and DIY venues like that which are just constantly shutting. I think Shackwell Arms was having a GoFundMe. Sister Midnight down in Deptford had a GoFundMe, and they're now relocating to a new space. And as good as these amazing, huge clubbing institutions are in London, I think it's really important to remember, even as DJs, these DIY venues are also really important as well.
Yeah, I think they kind of bring the diversity. Like, it's definitely a luxury to be in London, in the center of everything, and so easily, like, these things are so easily accessible. But it's often like, you know, the small venues that doesn't get as much publicity, but you can find the hidden gems there. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's also another thing in London, is that Londoners get kind of like quite snooty about where they go because we have so much choice and it's all just on our doorstep. I think sometimes we cannot appreciate the like incredible cultural like offerings that are going on. We're just like, oh, I don't really want to go to this event because there's one person on the lineup I don't fancy, it's £3 too expensive, you know. It is pricey, but like a lot is being offered. And maybe, you know, maybe post COVID
when we're all dying for a dance, we're going to appreciate it a little more.
Hopefully soon. Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely miss just going out, and I miss just being surrounded by so many choices that
yeah, I know.
you can actually choose. You know, I want to go here tonight and not the other place.
Yeah, I miss that.
Yeah. So would you tell us a couple of your, say, most memorable projects that you've done? Like, I know you've done quite a lot of things, as mentioned before, like, you know, then you did Boiler Room, you did lots of radio shows, and you co-founded Resolution. And, you know, is there something that you really you would like to, you know, that represents you and you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Resolution's a good one to talk about, because it's been, I mean, you've been to Resolution so much, like you've been there since pretty much, I think were you at the first one?
I have no idea. I think I went twice.
Right.
Or it's just I was always in my studio, so your place is always nearby, so
yeah,
why not?
I mean, I think that project in particular was a real representation of, like, myself, Henrik and Ed, who also run it, our frustration with something in the London scene and actually doing something about it. Because the concept of the show or the event came about that we were heavily involved in the computing department. We were very frustrated when we went to see kind of academic concerts from this department and from associated departments, that when we went to see them, the technologies being presented were incredible, but the way they were presented was just very lackluster. Like, it wasn't nearly as developed. And then if you went over instead to some of the London underground clubbing, like, the way it was presented was incredible. The production quality was insane, but sometimes the music actually wasn't really that special at all. Like, there wasn't that innovative. And we were just like, why haven't they been merged more? You know, why isn't this forward-thinking technology being presented with this forward-thinking, like, production and with the energy of kind of London clubbing? And that's kind of where the event came from. And considering that's how we set it up, and that was the, like, general idea, that I think we were at Goldsmith's Cafe talking about it one time, I'm pretty happy, like, looking back. It's now been like 3-4 years. God, has it been 3-4 years? Yeah, it probably has, of running it. And I think we've really, like, achieved that. Like, and it's very satisfying to look back and be like, yeah, I think this project has achieved that. Like, through events such as when we worked with Red Bull for their festival, our own events. You know, I think the last event we did was, actually, I can tell you, I have a poster of it just over there. The 19th of July, 2019. Oh my God, that was our last event. Jesus Christ.
Was that the one at the garage?
Yeah, venue MOT.
Yeah.
That was such a fun night. I had a great time despite the awful rain.
It was pouring, yeah.
Yeah.
We had the Lake Zurich afterwards outside. Yeah, but it was really nice, and I think we were really taking it for granted that, you know, like, we didn't know that everything would be on hold, like, all of a sudden, and we don't know when it's gonna come back.
Yeah, it's very nice to look back, and I'm glad that I got that event in, and other events. Basically, any event over the sort of, like, 2019 late period was just, I went out a lot clubbing, actually, as well as DJing a lot and putting on a lot of events. And at the time, I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit much. Like, I'm gonna have to pull off. And then, you know, everything shut, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm really glad I did that, because if I hadn't done that, I would have been absolutely kicking myself if I'd been like, no, I'm going to work on other stuff for a bit and then not have the opportunity, you know.
So yeah, and you had your last release on Friday. Would you like to? How did that go? Congratulations on this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Actually, you can see I was listening to it in the background.
Oh, nice. Oh, very nice.
Checking it out. You guys, if you're interested, you can find it on Charles' page. Go give it a listen.
Yeah, cool. Please do. Link is in my bio. All the links, all in the bio. Yeah, that was so nice. I haven't put out a proper EP release since, I think, 4 years ago. Because I kind of had this tendency when I make music to just kind of sit on it, and it never gets put out because I endlessly tweak it, and I'm like, it's not quite perfect, and, you know, it just never ends up seeing the light of day. And I was having a bit of a tough time at the end of last year, as we all were with COVID, and I was kind of struggling to deal with it. And I had a lot of free time because I was unemployed. So I was suddenly had some time to make music again, which I hadn't really had when I was busy DJing and running events. I'd kind of put that to one side whilst I worked on other stuff. And I started working on some stuff, and it was a really therapeutic process. Like it's a 3-track EP, and each track kind of represents a different mental state that I was in over those times. The first one was kind of this like insomnia filled, like 3 a.m. just like, what am I doing with my life? Where's it going? It's all going shit. What am I doing? And then the second track was much more like an just angry at the situation, about the world, about myself. And then the third one was much more like just like letting myself breathe, relax, let it pass, and moving on. So they each represented a very different like kind of mental state that I was in. And I wrote them all within a month. And I was like, I just basically committed to myself. I was like, right, I'm going to release this as quickly as possible. Not because I was trying to rush it, but because I was like, if I don't do this, if I don't give myself a deadline, it's just going to like endlessly sit there. Like it'll never go out. And yeah, I wasn't sure about it as an EP. And I was like, I hope I'm not just like forcing this. And then the more I kind of like tweaked it and finished it and conceptualized it, the happier I was with it. And I'm really proud of the end product. I'm really happy with it. And it's been a nice experience to kind of put that out. I mean, I finished it like a few months ago now. But so it's a bit weird it all going out and talking about it now. And I was like, oh, I've actually finished this ages ago. But yeah, so it's really nice to see it. And I've had some lovely comments from people, and it's been, shared about, which is even better to have, a bit of a reception to it, which has been really appreciated. Got to do a big shout out to Ashley for doing the artwork for that, because I was really happy with the artwork that we came out for. I was really worried about it, and then that's done, and it was done really well, and so I was happy with that and the process and that. So yeah, that last Friday, and it's also my first release under my own name on Spotify, which is a silly thing, but a thing that you need in the 21st century. Unfortunately, I hate Spotify, but it is important.
It is important, of course. And yeah, if you guys want to listen to it, you can find all your links on Charles' page. And would you, I know you're working on something else at the moment as well. Like, would you like to share a little bit of that? Like,
sure, of course. I'll just get it up now. So this is a remix I've been working on of a Polish jazz band called Siema Ziema. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because I've actually never heard their name said out loud. They're a really solid band. I kind of found them through another Polish jazz project that I've been playing out in radio, and I sent my EP out to quite a few people, as I do. But I sent it to them, and I was like, I love your guys' stuff. It's very electronic infused anyway. So I was like, maybe you guys might be interested in letting me remix one of your tunes. And they came back and they were like, we've never had anyone remix one of our tunes, but we'd love it. That'd be great. Why not? So they sent me their latest single, which had literally just come out, and they sent me all the stems, and it was great. I don't really remix too many people that often, and I don't often do big collaborations. Like, I get someone to play on the track or something like that, but I don't do big collaborations with like a full band. So it was really nice. Like, they sent me all of their session, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much stuff. Like, there's so much stuff to dig into in a really good way. And this remix was like really me. Well, at the moment, I'm looking at it. It's an absolute mess looking at the project, but it's really me trying to challenge myself to kind of think a little more outside of the box in terms of the way I approach the track. I felt like I got into a really comfortable rhythm with the EP, and then I've kind of approached this and been like, right, scrap all of that. I want to kind of reapproach it in a new way, and come up with some really weird ideas, and spend a lot of time. I spent a lot of time doing some very weird kind of routing and programming and patching and stuff with my hardware to get kind of very strange sounds as a kind of exercise for myself, but it's kind of built up into this very nice, chaotic, jazzy texture. I can play an extract if you would like.
Sure.
Let me just find a good bit to play from. Yes, cool. Let's make sure I've got sound coming up. Fade that just before I get to a bit that I haven't finished working.
The professional fading out.
Very professional fading.
The sound effects. Wow, thank you. No, that's super cool, and it's really interesting to. I don't always see the sort of like the visual part of the remix. I guess like I've only ever used what is it, Logic Pro. Was that Ableton?
So no, this is actually Reason. I'll show you a little bit. Reason's a very interesting choice of program because basically what it does, what most people are sort of used to from things is you'll have like a sequencer section where you put your tracks and you have a mixer section. But Reason has this whole other thing because all of the instruments are hardware modeled. So you actually kind of get like the physical look at them, and I can turn them over and rewire everything manually, which is really fun and means I can do some really strange stuff. So you can see I've got a lot of weird routing going on here. This is where I've kind of decided that I wanted to like repatch things in different ways and attach different effects in different ways, which you can do with other programs for sure, like Ableton or Logic. But for me, being able to actually just see a physical cable and drag it to another piece of kit, that kind of works with my brain a lot more. I think it's just
it's
kind
like
of
physical computing, but actually virtually.
Yeah,
That's
essentially. And I think that's just kind of what works with my brain. I mean, it was the first music software I downloaded at 13, so it's definitely what I'm most comfortable with as well. And I do other kinds of production on Ableton Live with different styles of projects, but for kind of stuff like this, I don't know, my brain really processes just physically seeing kit and being able to move it around in different ways, and I think that's really a program like this, or this program in particular, is really good, I think, because it then means that when you do get to a situation where you're given a load of hardware, you're kind of aware about how the signal flow works and what each input and output might do. And you know, if you were giving like a big modular setup, I feel like you'd be a bit more clued into how it works, because it's kind of been emulated in this program. I mean, it has a lot of shortcomings. They've done a lot of improvements over the last few years, but the early versions were less than adequate. But I think it's really fun, and I think it's just about I don't think it's particularly better than any other program, or any other program is better or worse than another one. This one just really works for my, like, I don't know, workflow, essentially, I guess. and Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools or Cubase or Audacity or no software at all and just hardware works better for other people's. And yeah, I think it's good to challenge yourself though and try new software. Like I do try and switch it up occasionally and use Ableton for different stuff. Like I said, but Ableton and I have a love-hate relationship. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes I absolutely hate it. I think it's the worst software on earth. So, you know, I'm not quite on the Ableton hype train. But yeah, that's reason for you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I think, well, I'm gonna check it out as well. Like it's, it could be very overwhelming. Like when it's the, when you're suddenly presented with like a lot of physical like things in front of you. But like as you said, if you already experienced it virtually, like you know how it works, and it could be something helpful when you're doing things live.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of live, I don't know how's things going in London. Like, do you know like this year if it's going to things are starting to come back? And...
Well, we've got some dates for stuff coming back here in London. I think it's April 12th is when pub gardens are opening. That's the first thing, and then we have a date for clubs now, which is June 13th, I want to say. I have my first club tickets booked, which is a very weird experience. I never thought I'd do that. Well, no, I did think I'd do that, but I didn't think it would come this soon. So it's quite nice to have those tickets finally bought. So yeah, things are slowly opening up. I mean, this lockdown has been very long, I think, and I think a lot of people are feeling very exhausted by it.
But are you still in lockdown right now?
Yeah, we're still in lockdown right now. We've same lockdown since I think like 22nd of December. So it's been quite a long time, and like I'm going to my job daily still, so I'm commuting, and there are some people. There's definitely people about. It's not like the first lockdown where it was like London looked like a ghost town. Like I think people are still operating with it, but it's certainly pretty quiet. I work up in Camden, and Camden High Street looks nothing like it normally does. It's so quiet up there. It's kind of weird. It's quite nice, but it's not quite so busy, but also a bit strange. So yeah, it is. The city's still operating a little bit, but not to nearly the same extent at the moment.
Yeah, and I think especially with the nightlife taken away from us, it's really different. I was around Soho around Christmas time, and it was just so quiet.
Yeah,
it feels so different. But
yeah.
well, we have hope. You know, things are gonna slowly come back, and hopefully this is a time for all of us to reflect as well, to produce something or just feel sad or happy. You know,
yeah,
connected with your emotions.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of lot of solo time, a lot of thinking time, which is good and potentially a bad thing in too much. You know, I think there's good time to work on yourself, and then there's enough time to work on yourself. And
yeah, there's that one point is it's just too much time to work on yourself.
Yeah, I know. We're now at that point where it's like, well, I've done a lot of, you know, soul searching and thinking. I'm kind of done with that. I would quite like to go out and just have a beer now. You know, but we're getting there slowly. And it has been I think it has been a good period in a lot of ways for a lot of people. It would be silly to deny the importance of this time and being able to reflect. And I think it'll be really interesting to see when things open up, if there's a different approach to, you know, work and personal life balance for people, a different approach to kind of conversations about mental health, because I really thought that came up a lot more with lockdown, how people are going to approach like hygiene, how people are going to approach events and cultural experiences and being able to go out and do things. You know, there's a lot of different things that might come of this, and it'll be interesting to see in the first couple of months how people adjust to the kind of new normality, I think.
Yeah, I guess we'll see soon. It's which way it's. I keep hearing it on the radio, people comparing it to like people are saying that it might have another like the roaring 20s and or
Right.
like or maybe it's the other way around. People are a bit scared. They're being exclusive without being conscious about it because of the worry. So
Yeah, I can't quite tell. Like, part of me thinks a strong part of me thinks the Roaring Twenties idea, because all the events I've seen go up have sold out. Most of the festivals I've seen have sold out. I know they're all on slightly lower capacities, but it's pretty much sold across the board. People are keen to like go out and party, but at the same time, I don't know, there must be this kind of undocumented demographic at the moment, because there's no way to document them, that will be a bit like COVID aware, I guess, or COVID anxious post lockdown. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see which way it goes.
yeah, well, I definitely have a lot less FOMO now. Like if I don't go out, and I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah,
Like if you
definitely.
talked
I
to me 2
agree.
years ago, I would be like, going to every event every single weekend probably. And at one point, it just like I feel like, okay, I need to stop. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say I'll be like that too, but then also I think I'll be like, oh my God, I spent that amount of time not going to events and I'm not going to go to one tonight. I need to appreciate every night and go to a new thing every night. I think that the one actual resolution I've held to myself is that I'm going to make a real attempt to go to stuff I haven't been to and that I've wanted to, and not kind of do the same events that I'm very used to. Like, don't get me wrong, having the familiarity of events that or club nights or bars or just places in London that that's great. But I think now is the opportunity to be like, I've never gone and done this. I really want to go do that. Like, absolute, push the boat out, really try some new stuff. Like that first clubbing ticket I've got is up in Manchester. I've never been to Manchester and I've never been to this night, and I've always heard about it. And I was like, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to go. Like, what better way
Try
to be
something new.
clubbing? Yeah, than trying something new. And I'm slowly making a little list on my phone of like, I want to go to this club in Glasgow, and I want to go to this club in Bristol, and all of this stuff that I can be like, right, I want to try some new things in some new places, so it's not just like the same old,
Yeah, well, it's a bit like going to a restaurant and order something new from the menu. Like
Exactly.
you either order something that you know for sure that's gonna be good, or try something different.
Yeah,
Might be surprised. So
exactly.
good advice. Good tips from Charles.
That's what I'm here for.
Ooh, well, thank you again for joining me, and sorry about the confusion with time.
That's absolutely
Working across a few different timelines, time zones right now, it's a bit confusing.
bit chaotic.
Yeah, well, and yeah, thank you. And again, Charles had his release last Friday, and please go to his page to support him. And we'll have some interesting new remix coming up soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.